stages with those progressions too. So it divides like that. What happens next, after that zygote is formed, is on about the third day, still in the fallopian tube or uterine tube, you will have developed a solid clump of cells, still about the same size as the original egg that was developed. The cell just gets smaller. It's kind of hard to show this with this darn pen. It doesn't draw too well, but you'll get a solid ball of cells, usually in the range of 16 to 32 cells, and we call that a morula. The morula is that first group of cells, that clump of cells that we get from this series of divisions. You'll notice in your textbook that it comes from the word that means mulberry. Have you ever seen a mulberry before? Now, there's a town up here called Mulberry, but a mulberry is a berry that comes off the mulberry tree, and it's got all these little black units to it that looks like, and that's the reason they called it a morula. Somebody looked at that and said, hey, that looks like a mulberry, so we'll call it a morula, which technically means mulberry. Now, this continues to grow, and I'm going to have to write this one over here someplace. Fit it in here as best I can. This thing will continue to grow and hollow out, become a hollow sphere of cells that are probably starting about 100 and then going to hundreds of cells. And that then is called a blastocyst. And it is hollow, but inside there's a group of cells, 20 to 30 cells, called the inner cell mass inside that. And this is what becomes the embryo. So technically an embryo is not formed until the inner cell mass begins to organize itself and develop the embryo. That's what I'm trying to show it with this dot you see over here to the side. That's the inner cell mass right there in this blastocyst. But it's a sphere with that group of cells inside it. And significantly, it has layers of cells and tissue on the outside, which is going to help it implant within the lining. It's the outer layers of the blastocysts that digest their way into the endometrium. And so this thing comes down. First it sticks to the endometrium, and then it implants. And we'll just say here, whoops, got my eye there. It'll implant by about, as I said before, the 10th day. Takes it 4 to 5 days to get into the uterus, and then it will stick to the lining and then start digesting its way in. So we figure 5 or 6, 7 days later, whatever, it will be found within the endometrial lining, taking up residence in there and continuing its development. So that's why when I said a while ago that on that previous thing I had the word embryo and then I had parentheses rather, term blastocyst, that's the reason. The blastocyst is not yet an embryo. Where does the embryo come from? Inner cell mass, which is inside of that blastocyst. It's just a portion of the cells, the original cells we started with, that are going to organize themselves into a human embryo. And it is a fascinating process by which it happens.